I do not want to spend my honeymoon climbing, hiking, sweating, bleeding, or suffering in any...
In the grand tapestry of Star Trek, few characters embodied serenity and mystery as perfectly as Jadzia Dax. She was the quiet current beneath Deep Space Nine's political storms, a scientist with a laugh as quick as her mind, and a soul who carried 8 lifetimes of memories. Viewers came to rely on her presence the way the station relied on its steady orbit, a constant amid chaos. Then, without warning, it ended. Behind the polished episodes and elaborate starships, a collision of schedules, studio expectations, and personal choices pushed events toward an unexpected finale. Terry Farrell, the actress who gave Dax her warmth and wisdom, made a decision that shocked her fellow castmates and left loyal fans stunned. The suddenness of her exit rippled through the series, altering its emotional core and reshaping the stories that followed. How did a character seemingly destined for a long, celebrated run disappear so abruptly? What happened on the sound stages of Paramount that turned a dream job into an unsustainable grind? To understand that turning point, you have to trace the journey of a young woman from the quiet neighborhoods of Cedar Rapids, Iowa, to the gleaming corridors of a space station on the far side of a fictional wormhole. Terry Farrell's path to stardom began thousands of miles from Hollywood, in a city where stargazing meant cornfields rather than red carpets. Born in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, she grew up with the kind of Midwestern sensibility that prizes hard work and humility. Yet, even as a teenager, Farrell felt the tug of a bigger horizon. During her junior year of high school, she took a leap of faith that would forever change her life. She mailed a single photograph to Elite Model Management, one of New York's most powerful modeling agencies. Within 48 hours of stepping off the bus in Manhattan, she signed an exclusive contract with Mademoiselle magazine. The rise that followed was nothing short of meteoric. Covers of Italian Vogue and German Vogue appeared almost overnight, followed by striking spreads in the American edition. Her look, clean, modern, effortlessly versatile, made her a favorite in fashion capitals from Paris to Milan. But the bright lights of the runway, while dazzling to outsiders, never quite matched the rhythm of her heart. Farrell began to feel the limitations of a life measured only in poses and photographs. Modeling brought recognition and financial comfort, yet she yearned for something deeper, a career that demanded voice, thought, and presence. Acting classes opened that door. She balanced modeling jobs with acting lessons, gradually shifting her ambition from runway to soundstage. In 1984, she landed her first steady television role as a model in Paper Dolls, a drama about the fashion industry that mirrored her own life. The show lasted just 1 season, but it gave her the taste of sustained performance. 2 years later came her film debut in Rodney Dangerfield's comedy Back to School, a modest role that nonetheless taught her the rhythms of film work. Through the late 1980s, Farrell built a resume of eclectic guest appearances: The Twilight Zone, Quantum Leap, The Cosby Show. Each role added another layer of experience, another step away from the narrow confines of modeling. By 1992, she was chasing roles with more substance. That year, she was cast as Kat in the American pilot of Red Dwarf, a remake of the hit British sci-fi comedy. The project seemed promising, but the pilot never aired, a disappointment that might have discouraged many actors. Farrell treated it instead as a final bend in the road before a career-defining turn. That turn was Star Trek, Deep Space Nine. When casting began, producers had already assembled most of the crew and built the vast station sets. Farrell was called in as the last piece of the ensemble puzzle. She walked onto a soundstage, buzzing with anticipation and pressure, fully aware that she had to prove herself instantly. The role they offered was like nothing she'd attempted: Jadzia Dax, a Starfleet science officer who carried a symbiont containing the memories of 7 previous hosts. One moment, Dax would need the bright confidence of youth. The next, the measured wisdom of centuries. It was a challenge that required delicacy, strength, and a capacity to convey ancient experience through youthful eyes. Initially, The production team designed the Trill species with heavy forehead ridges, similar to Klingons. Farrell endured hours of prosthetic makeup, only to have those first shots scrapped when makeup legend Michael Westmore decided to simplify the look. The now iconic spots running from temple to ankle emerged instead, giving Dax a subtle elegance and preserving Farrell's natural expressiveness. Despite the sudden redesign and the need to reshoot early scenes, Farrell stayed poised. Though she later admitted to feeling overwhelmed, like a deer in headlights, as she put it, she pressed forward. That perseverance would soon pay off in ways neither she nor the producers could have anticipated. Stepping into the Star Trek universe was no ordinary acting gig. By the early 1990s, Star Trek was more than a TV series. It was a cultural institution with a fiercely devoted fan base. New actors weren't simply filling roles, they were joining a legacy. For Farrell, a relative newcomer, the stakes were intimidating. Jadzia Dax was a Trill, a symbiotic being whose consciousness fused with a long-lived creature known as a symbiont. That meant Jadzia, though only 28 in appearance, carried the memories and wisdom of 8 lifetimes, conveying that depth required more than charm or memorization. Farrell needed to embody a serenity that suggested centuries of experience while maintaining the warmth and curiosity of a young officer. Off-screen, she was still a young actress grappling with insecurities, but producers sensed an inner stillness in her that fit their vision of Dax. From the first day, the logistics of the role were overwhelming. The station's ops set was a labyrinth of blinking consoles and towering chairs. Farrell recalled being stunned by the sheer size and complexity, a newcomer dwarfed by technology and seasoned co-stars like Avery Brooks. Nana Visitor and Renee Auberjonois. Dialogue added another layer of challenge. Star Trek scripts bristled with technobabble, subspace anomalies, quantum flux, and more. Farrell had to deliver these lines with the casual authority of a seasoned scientist, making the impossible sound routine. Physically, the role demanded discipline. Although the forehead prosthetics were dropped, the Trill spots required painstaking application every morning, a process that tested patience and endurance. Yet through these trials, something remarkable happened. The character began to shape the actress. Jadzia's poise and self-assurance became a kind of armor for Farrell's own uncertainties. Playing Dax made me feel secure, she later reflected. It was like having an anchor. Audiences quickly embraced this layered portrayal. Dax could debate philosophy with Captain Sisko one moment and trade bloodwine toasts with Klingons the next. She was wise but never cold, witty yet grounded. Farrell's natural humor and warmth seeped into the character, making Jadzia approachable despite her extraordinary background. The dynamic between Jadzia and Captain Benjamin Sisko became central to the series. The Dax symbiont had once lived inside Sisko's mentor, Curzon, giving their relationship a playful intimacy. Farrell leaned into that nuance, allowing Sisko to treat Jadzia as both a trusted junior officer and an old friend. Their scenes carried a sense of shared history that enriched the narrative and gave DS9 a unique emotional core. By the end of the first season, any doubts about Farrell's casting were silenced. Jadzia Dax had become a fan favorite, and Farrell had transformed from a hesitant newcomer into a confident performer, embodying a character with the wisdom of 8 lifetimes. But as the seasons advanced, the demands of maintaining that illusion and of keeping up with the relentless production schedule began to exact a heavy toll. Working on Deep Space Nine was not just an acting job, it was a marathon of endurance. Episodes aired in a network era that demanded far more content than today's streaming schedules. Paramount expected 26 episodes per season, nearly double what is common now. That meant 5-day work weeks of 14-hour days, with little time to recover between storylines. While fans saw polished episodes with layered plots and stunning visual effects, the cast and crew often operated in a haze of fatigue. For Farrell, still early in her career, the workload was both a proving ground and a pressure cooker. She described those early years as survival mode, a constant cycle of memorizing dense technobabble, enduring long makeup sessions, and finding the energy to perform alongside seasoned veterans. Even seemingly simple tasks carried hidden demands. The trill spots that appeared effortless on screen had to be hand-painted from forehead to ankle each morning, often taking more than an hour. Farrell learned to start her days in quiet focus, conserving strength for the long hours ahead. The dialogue remained another challenge. Star Trek's pseudo-scientific language left no room for hesitation. Farrell spent late nights drilling lines until they rolled off her tongue with natural authority. Every pause or stumble would break the illusion of a brilliant science officer, so precision became second nature. Her co-stars, Avery Brooks, Nana Visitor, Renée Auberjonois, were theater-trained veterans with decades of experience. Farrell, though talented, often felt the pressure to match their level. Instead of letting it intimidate her, she used it as fuel. "I was always trying to come up to the level of all the people around me," she said later. That determination sharpened her skills and gave Jadzia the poise that fans adored, but relentless production left little space for personal life or creative exploration beyond the series. While Farrell longed to tackle new roles or simply rest, the schedule offered no breaks. Week after week, year after year, the cycle continued. Finish one episode on Friday, start the next on Monday. As the series progressed, the storytelling grew more ambitious. DS9 distinguished itself from the next generation by weaving long, serialized arcs, particularly as the Dominion War storyline unfolded. Scripts became heavier, more emotionally charged. Episodes demanded that Farrell convey wisdom, humor, grief, and fury, sometimes all within a single hour. By the end of the 6th season, the strain was undeniable. Farrell loved Jadzia and the family she'd found on set, but she could no longer imagine sustaining that grueling pace. Burnout set in, not from lack of passion, but from sheer physical and emotional exhaustion. Behind the scenes, contract negotiations added to the tension. Farrell hoped for a reduced workload, perhaps appearing in fewer episodes so she could explore other projects and preserve her health. Reports suggest that talks with the studio grew difficult. Paramount, eager to maintain the ensemble and the demanding production cycle, resisted her requests. Faced with the prospect of another full season under the same conditions, Farrell made the painful choice to step away. It was a decision that surprised her co-stars and devastated fans. But for her, it was the only path to balance and self-preservation. When news broke that Terry Farrell would leave Deep Space Nine after Season 6, the reaction was immediate and intense. Cast members were stunned. Fans flooded message boards and conventions with questions and heartbreak. For a character who had become the soul of the station, the loss felt seismic. The showrunners faced a narrative challenge. Jadzia Dax was central to multiple arcs. Her marriage to Worf, her friendship with Sisko, her unique role as the keeper of centuries of memories. Rather than quietly writing her out, the writers chose a dramatic farewell. In the Season 6 finale, Tears of the Prophets, Jadzia is killed by Gul Dukat while hosting the Pa Wraith. The moment was shocking and emotionally charged, a clear statement that DS9 would never be the same. Farrell later spoke candidly about the circumstances. She loved the cast and cherished the character, but could no longer endure the relentless schedule without compromise. Offers to reduce her workload never materialized to her satisfaction. Ultimately, she prioritized her health and creative growth over staying in a role that, while beloved, had become unsustainable. Her departure underscored a truth often hidden behind Hollywood glamour. Even the most iconic roles can demand sacrifices that weigh heavily on personal well-being. Farrell chose agency over inertia, a decision that, in retrospect, reflects the same quiet strength that made Jadzia resonate with audiences. The show pressed on, introducing Nicole DeBoer as Jadzia Dax, a new host for the symbiont. While Jadzia brought fresh energy, many fans felt the absence of Jadzia keenly. The chemistry between Sisko and Dax, the wisdom wrapped in playful wit, could not be replicated. Farrell moved on to other opportunities, including a regular role on the sitcom Becker, where she enjoyed a more manageable schedule and a chance to flex her comedic talents. Her later interviews radiate appreciation for the Trek years despite the difficult ending. "It was a wonderful experience," she has said, but I needed to take care of myself. In fandom, Jadzia Dax remains a beacon. She represents curiosity and resilience, a character who balanced ageless wisdom with youthful joy. Conventions still echo with tributes to her legacy, and Farrell's presence at fan events draws long lines of admirers eager to thank her for bringing Dax to life. The story of Terry Farrell's tenure on Deep Space Nine is more than a tale of a beloved character's sudden exit. It is a reminder that behind the polished episodes and elaborate worlds of science fiction are real people navigating the demands of their craft. Farrell's choice to leave was not a failure, but a testament to self-respect, a decision that, like Jadzia Dax herself, carries the weight of wisdom. Leaving the Starfleet uniform behind didn't mean Terry Farrell stepped away from entertainment. Soon after her DS9 farewell, she joined the sitcom Becker opposite Ted Danson. The series offered a welcome contrast to the marathon production schedule of Star Trek. Shorter hours, a lighter atmosphere, and the chance to explore comedic timing. Farrell thrived in this environment, proving her versatility as an actress, and earning praise for her understated humor and natural warmth. When Becker ended, Farrell took deliberate pauses between roles, choosing quality of life over relentless pursuit of the next headline. She appeared in television movies, made guest appearances on shows like CSI NY, and steadily built a career on her own terms. Conventions and fan events kept her connected to the Trek community, but she balanced that with raising a family and exploring other creative interests, including photography and advocacy for mental health and women's rights in the industry. Farrell often described this period as a time of rediscovery, an opportunity to reclaim the parts of herself that had been lost to the grind of weekly television. In interviews, she expressed gratitude for the freedom to say yes only to projects that truly inspired her. Despite leaving DS9 under tense circumstances, Farrell's bond with the Star Trek universe never truly faded. Fan conventions became a space of reunion, where she met longtime admirers and reunited with fellow cast members. Panels frequently turned into affectionate storytelling sessions, with Farrell sharing memories of behind-the-scenes antics, the camaraderie on set, and the challenges of wearing those now iconic Trill spots day after day. A particularly heartwarming chapter came in 2017 when Farrell married Adam Nimoy, son of legendary Spock actor Leonard Nimoy. The wedding felt like a symbolic reconnection to the Star Trek family, uniting two legacies of the franchise. Farrell spoke openly about how fandom and friendship within the Trek community had enriched her life long after the final DS9 episode aired. Today, Jadzia Dax stands as one of the franchise's most groundbreaking characters. She was a vivid portrayal of gender fluidity before the term entered mainstream conversation, her symbiont carrying experiences across genders and lifetimes, challenging traditional ideas of identity. Fans often cite Dax as an early example of LGBTQ+ representation in science fiction, a character who embodied the idea that love and wisdom transcend the limits of a single body. Farrell embraces that legacy. She has expressed pride in the way Jadzia opened doors for more nuanced representations of identity in television. At conventions, young fans frequently thank her for helping them feel seen and understood, proof that the character's influence extends far beyond the borders of the Alpha Quadrant. Her portrayal continues to inspire writers, cosplayers, and new Star Trek shows. Even decades after DS9's finale, Dax is referenced with reverence in discussions about the evolution of science fiction storytelling. Farrell's willingness to share personal stories of challenge and triumph keeps that influence alive for a new generation of viewers. Looking back, Farrell speaks of her DS9 years with a nuanced mix of gratitude and realism. She acknowledges the stress and long hours but frames them as crucial to her growth as both an actress and a person. "Playing Jadzia taught me confidence I didn't yet have," she has said, noting how the character's poise became a mirror for her own development. Farrell also emphasizes the importance of setting boundaries, a lesson hard-won during those grueling production years. She hopes her story encourages younger performers to advocate for healthier work conditions and to honor their own well-being even when opportunities seem once in a lifetime. As the years passed, Terry Farrell discovered that Star Trek fandom wasn't just enduring, it was growing. Convention halls from Las Vegas to London welcomed her with standing ovations. Every autograph line became a miniature reunion, where fans of all ages shared personal stories about how Jadzia Dax inspired them. Parents introduced children to DS9, and those children arrived in full Trill makeup, spots carefully painted to mirror their hero. Farrell often said these interactions reminded her why the long hours and demanding scripts had been worth it. The energy of the fans, some arriving in uniforms they'd sewn themselves, others traveling thousands of miles, felt like a living testament to the impact of the series. Panels frequently turned into heartfelt conversations, with fans thanking her for representing strength, wisdom, and acceptance at a time when such representation was rare on television. The digital age opened unexpected doors for reconnecting with Jadzia Dax. Podcast interviews, documentary features, and anniversary retrospectives offered Farrell opportunities to reflect publicly on her DS9 journey. In 2020, she appeared in the docuseries What We Left Behind, sharing candid memories and unseen behind-the-scenes photos. Social media also allowed Farrell to interact with fans directly. She occasionally posts convention snapshots or throwback photos from the DS9 set, sparking waves of nostalgia and new discussions about Dax's legacy. These modern platforms keep her bonded to a global community that spans generations, proving that a character introduced in 1993 still resonates in the streaming era. Writers and producers of later Trek series often acknowledge that Jadzia Dax paved the way for more complex, serialized storytelling. Shows like Star Trek, Discovery, and Star Trek: Strange New Worlds have cited DS9's character-driven arcs as inspiration. Farrell's performance demonstrated how a science fiction character could balance action, intellect, and emotional nuance without losing audience appeal. Moreover, Dax's fluid sense of identity anticipated the franchise's later explorations of gender, culture, and personal transformation. Producers have credited the character's popularity for encouraging them to feature more diverse and layered protagonists who challenge traditional boundaries of selfhood. Away from the convention spotlight, Farrell dedicated time to causes close to her heart. She has spoken about the importance of mental health awareness, using her platform to support organizations that provide resources for those in high-stress creative industries. Photography and art remain personal passions. She has exhibited selected works at local galleries, describing the craft as a way to slow down and notice the quiet moments. Farrell also mentors aspiring actors, sharing the practical lessons she learned from modeling and television, from maintaining professional boundaries to staying resilient in an unpredictable industry. Today, more than 3 decades after DS9 first aired, Jadzia Dax continues to appear in essays, fan fiction, and scholarly studies of science fiction television. Universities include DS9 in media courses, analyzing the character's nuanced representation of gender fluidity and collective memory. Cosplayers keep Dax's image alive at conventions, carefully recreating the trail of Trill spots that once took Farrell over an hour to apply each morning. For Farrell, this enduring presence is both humbling and thrilling. She often remarks that the character now belongs to the fans, a living symbol of possibility and acceptance that extends far beyond any single performance. When asked whether she would ever reprise Jadzia in a new Trek project, Farrell answers with measured optimism. She acknowledges that Jadzia's canon death complicates a direct return, yet in the expansive multiverse of Star Trek, stranger resurrections have occurred. More important to her, however, is the idea that the character's essence already lives on, in the hearts of viewers, in countless fan creations, and in the ever-expanding lore of the franchise. Star Trek, she often says, is about hope for the future. If Jadzia inspires someone to believe in their own possibilities, that's better than any comeback I could imagine. As Deep Space Nine reached its 25th and later 30th anniversaries, Farrell found herself at the center of renewed attention. Special panels, live-streamed reunions, and retrospective documentaries invited her to share stories she had never told before. She spoke about the first table read, the evolution of Jadzia's wardrobe, and the camaraderie that grew from years of long production days. These events highlighted not just nostalgia but the enduring relevance of the show's moral questions about war, diplomacy, and identity. Farrell has embraced a mentor's role for aspiring performers and filmmakers. At acting workshops and university seminars, she discusses everything from managing rejection to navigating contract negotiations. Students often remark on her generosity with practical advice and her willingness to share both triumphs and setbacks. She also supports youth programs focused on science education, hoping to inspire the next generation of creators and explorers. Beyond acting and photography, Farrell experiments with writing and voice work. She has contributed essays to fan anthologies and provided narration for audiobook projects related to science fiction and self-growth. These ventures allow her to merge her love for storytelling with her distinctive, warm vocal style, reaching audiences who may never have watched DS9 but appreciate a compelling narrative voice. International conventions introduced Farrell to cultures far beyond North America and Europe. From Tokyo to São Paulo, she has witnessed how Star Trek's ideals of inclusivity resonate across languages and traditions. In some countries, government officials even attend fan events to underscore Star Trek's influence on science and diplomacy. Farrell often remarks that these journeys feel like real-world Starfleet missions, where fans become ambassadors of curiosity and cooperation. Many scientists, engineers, and astronauts cite Star Trek as an early spark for their careers. And Jadzia Dax, a character who blends scientific expertise with deep wisdom, remains a touchstone. Farrell has participated in panels with NASA engineers and women in STEM leaders, discussing how fictional portrayals of scientists can shape real-world aspirations. She views this as one of the most gratifying outcomes of her work. Knowing Jadzia encouraged someone to pursue astrophysics or medicine is the greatest reward, she says. Away from the spotlight, Farrell cherishes time with family and close friends. She enjoys gardening, hiking, and cooking, activities that provide balance after years in front of cameras. Though she continues to attend select events, she values privacy and the simple routines that keep her grounded. In interviews, she describes these moments as the calm after warp speed, a fitting metaphor for someone who once lived at the center of a bustling space station. Farrell's portrayal of Jadzia Dax stands as a template for complex, empowered characters in science fiction. Young actors often cite her as a reason they believe nuanced female roles are possible in genre television. Writers reference Dax when advocating for deeper, more inclusive storytelling. Farrell embraces this continuing influence, reminding audiences that the essence of Star Trek is not only adventure among the stars, but also the courage to evolve here on Earth. As new Trek series like Discovery, Lower Decks, and Strange New Worlds debut, fans continue to reference Jadzia Dax as a benchmark for layered character writing. Showrunners often mention DS9's complexity as a guiding light, and Farrell's performance is cited when discussing how to blend humor, gravitas, and quiet confidence in a single role. Farrell frequently encounters fan-made art, from oil paintings of Jadzia in full trill regalia to symphonic compositions inspired by key DS9 episodes. She said these creations feel like a second life for the character, keeping Dax alive in new forms of expression. Fanzines, podcasts, and online fiction archives ensure that the symbiote's journey never truly ends. While conventions remain part of her calendar, Farrell increasingly selects intimate, well-curated events. These smaller gatherings allow for deeper conversations with attendees, where she can swap personal stories, discuss acting craft, and connect without the rush of a giant expo. Farrell uses her platform to speak about fair pay, family-friendly production schedules, and the importance of mental health support on set. She often draws on her DS9 experience, long hours, intense expectations, as a case study in what the industry can improve. Parents who watched DS9 during its original run now introduce the series to their children, creating a multi-generational fandom. Farrell finds joy in meeting these families, noting that Jadzia belongs to everyone, old fans, new fans, and those still discovering her wisdom. Invitations from science museums and planetariums have become a regular part of Farrell's schedule. She speaks about the value of imaginative fiction in sparking real-world innovation, often appearing alongside astronomers and engineers who cite Star